Your body is brilliant. Nature's Bounty has a bounty of solutions to help you thrive, supporting your systems from your head to your heels. Nature's Bounty High Absorption Magnesium Glycinate supports heart, bone, nerve, and muscle health, while just one hair growth capsule a day helps grow thicker, fuller hair. Delicious new Nature's Bounty Probiotic Gummies contain prebiotics and postbiotics, supporting gut health, regularity, and immune health. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature. Learn more at naturesbounty.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
For today's show, I am partnering with Castro, the podcast app that makes it easy to enjoy episodes of your favorite shows with the best playback experience available. Designed to help you expand your listening habits and track a broad range of shows without getting overwhelmed. Castro is the podcast app for podcast lovers. So if you love my show and others like it, give Castro a try. Go to castro.fm to download the Castro podcast app today.
Not everyone understands house music. It's a spiritual thing, a body thing, a soul thing.
Hi, thanks for joining the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. Today I have a guy named Bob on my show, and he has a very, very, very interesting story. He has done some research about near-death experiences, and welcome to the show, Bob.
Thank you for having me. It's an interesting event to be on your show. It's very nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So Bob is in the Netherlands, and so he is in a beautiful country. What part of the Netherlands are you in?
I'm in Amsterdam. And actually, Amsterdam is the first place in the world where a gay marriage was performed.
Really?
Yeah, it was in 2001, I think, or maybe even before that. And I was married there too with my husband.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
That was in 12, so a lot of people went before me.
Yeah. Boston or Massachusetts was the first state that allowed people to get same-sex marriage actually in the United States before it became federally. So
you should roll it out for the whole country and stay there.
It is now for the whole country.
I hope it stays like that. You have a very interesting, let me say it like that, situation going on with your...
you don't got to tell me. I know every day I think about it, so who knows? I'm hoping that we survive these 4 years and we still have same-sex marriage after 4 years. So
I hope so too,
yeah. So tell me about you've written a couple of books, and I would love to kind of talk to you about the near-death experiences and how it's related to people that are gay. And tell me a little bit about the research that you've found out, that you studied.
Yeah, maybe for listeners who do not know what a near-death experience is, maybe I should start there and then talk over a few cases where people have had such an experience and found out that being gay is no issue on the other side. But talking about the other side, near-death experiences are very special and overwhelming experiences for those who have had such an experience. Typically, they happen in a medical critical situation, like a cardiac arrest or some other issue or an accident. And but not only that, you can have it also when you have a psychological downturn in your life. It's very deep, or even spontaneously or with meditation. But most of the time, these near-death experiences occur in a medical critical situation. And people say that they have been on the other side of life. So they actually say they have been dead and they found a totally different environment there, a different world where unconditional love is the prime thing there. And that's nice to hear. And it is nice. And there is also some circumstantial evidence to support this. And maybe we can touch upon that later.
Yeah.
But the thing is that these experiences happen to all kinds of people. Like any place in the world where people live, they have had such experiences. It occurs to rich and poor, to any race, man, wife, anything, you name it. If it's a human, it can have an NDE, and maybe even animals, but we don't know that.
Yeah.
But for humans, we can talk to them, we can speak to them after their experience, and then we can find out some stories. And what I did in my book is to assemble a number of quotes from NDEs, like hundreds of quotes are in my book. Maybe I can flesh it out for
Yeah,
you.
that'd be great. Please do.
It's called Impressions of Near-Death Experience. The reason why I called it Impressions of Near-Death Experience is that no one can really give a good definition. So the best thing to do is to read through a lot of them, and that's painstaking. So I assembled a number of very important and special cases, and had quotes of them in the book. And
How did you find the people that you quoted in the book?
Well, most of all, I had them through interviews that I had with these people. So I saw them, I spoke with them. But there are also a lot of people who wrote books about them, about their own experience. I used them too. And I went into the archives of three, but two very important organizations. One I'm board member of also, that's the International Association for Near-Death Studies. People can find that at ians.org. And the other one is the Near-Death Experience Research Fund, NDERF.org, if they want to look at that. There are a lot of those examples there. It's very interesting to go through a number of those. But, three of those cases were mentioned in my book. And those cases, I mean people who were gay, who had an experience. And let me just tell you one of those.
Yeah.
Let me think which one I want to tell to you and to your listeners. Well, I can tell them all, three of course. Typically, well, not every NDE is the same as another. Life reviews are also in near-death experiences. And life review is actually what it is. It shows your life. Your life flashes before your eyes, and it can come in different ways. But you are able to see whatever you did in your life. But you see it also not only from your own point of view, but you see it also from the other point of view. Now, this guy had his life review, and he was looking at it, and he sort of missed something because he knew he was gay, and this was not really in his life review so much. It was not on the forefront. And then it turned on to be the second time that they showed this for him, and then it had. He noticed that there were these feelings of him being there, that he was weary of being gay. So he was afraid of being gay, and he didn't know what to do with it. And then these life reviews are most of the time presented to you in the presence of others or of the light, or a loving light, a loving person. Some people call it God or Jesus or Krishna or whatever. And then in this case, he mustered his courage, and he asked, "Is it okay to be gay?" And then the answer was, "Who do you think makes gay people?" And that's referring to God, who makes these gay people, or make people gay, having gay feelings. And it was in such a way, it was presented in such a way like, don't bother, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That was the feeling that he got from this thing, from this moment when he talked about his life review. And there is another case of a gentleman who had a near-death experience. He had one of his friends passed away just before him, 2 or 3 days before him. So he went to that funeral, but he was devastated and he was very sad. And at one point, I think he took pills and too much booze, and then he found himself on the other side as well. And then he met this friend, and then he thought, oh my God, so if I see this friend and he's dead, then I must be dead too.
Yeah.
and then and then the whole conversation went on, and that went on telepathically. So you typically people say you don't need your mouth to talk. It is a conveyance of thoughts, so from one person to the other. And then this friend of his said to him, uh, indicated that he knew that this near-death experiencer, so the second one who died, that he had difficulties with his family, that he was estranged from his family because he was gay. And then this friend who was dead already indicated very empathically, you should always openly celebrate and honor your sexuality as a precious gift from God. And the NDE, who of course was later resuscitated and came back to life, he found that really startling event, a startling revelation also, that it was okay, that you should be honoring being gay and value it, and as a precious gift of God. That's also what I do believe after having spoken to so many NDEs. Any problem you have, and maybe for some people being gay is a problem, that is not as a punishment or as something terrible. It is something you have to live with, because there is a reason for every person's life. That is one of the things that stands out from near-death experiences. So
is that what everyone says, that they know when they come back, that they know that there's a purpose for them individually?
Most people come back with the idea that they have a task. So every person, they know that they have a task, but they also know that everyone has a task, and that applies to everyone. There's no one here on earth that is not important. Also, the beggar in the street. No one is unimportant. We all have a reason to be here. If you wouldn't have a reason to be here, you would not be here. You would die and be gone. So that's the idea. Everyone has a purpose. So also people who are gay, they have a purpose too. And if you want to take it far enough, then everyone, also the people that we just touched upon, the people in your your Supreme Court and your president have a reason to be here.
Yeah. The two people that you just mentioned, or I guess any of the people that you've spoken with, whenever they are on the other side, how long is it usually? Are they there just for a short amount of time? But obviously the time is different there if time even exists, and so when they come back, they obviously have remembered what happened during that time period. So what is the timeline? Like, how long are they there?
Yeah, Zach, that's a very good question. You indicate quite correctly that on the other side, there seems not to be any time. Or as one said, all time is at the same time. Now, you have to think about what that means. It means that every moment in your life is still there. So your birth is still there. When you became 10 was still there. Your first kiss is still there. So all time is there at the same time. And near-death experiences sometimes last for such a short time. Like there's a book called 37 Seconds. It indicates that the NDE was just 37 seconds. But what this person, it was a woman who had to deliver a baby, and that went wrong. She had so much to tell. She experienced so many things on the other side, because the time is different. You can experience so much there, and it's just a nickel for time here. Some people are without oxygen there have been stories like half an hour or so, unbelievably long. But when they are resuscitated, and then they also talk about a lot of things. And the other thing is that people who have had a near-death experience, they say, what we have experienced on the other side, you cannot really capture it in words, because the words we use are not sufficient to convey the real thing. there are no concepts in our language that could cover that, what we experience. And they also say that what they experience on the other side is much more real than here. We think we are sitting on a chair, we are talking to each other on this, people are listening to us, they think that's real. Is on the other side, if I can believe these people, that's much more real. There's much more dimensions. Everything is clear. You can look at things from many different directions all at the same time. You don't have to move to see everything.
So what got you interested in near-death experiences? Like, what made you want to do this research, write a book? I mean, it's so, like, I'm so interested in it because I'll get your answer, then I'll tell you why I'm interested in it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, well, I didn't have a near-death experience myself, although someone at a conference who had a near-death experience said to me, you had one as a child. And I really can't remember that. But I was always interested in spirituality, and I was in the Catholic Church. So I was interested in what the Catholic Church had to say. But there was hell and purgatory and judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I read the book by Raymond Moody, who coined the phrase near-death experience. And I found something there in the book, a woman with a life review. And in the life review, she said, I saw that I also did bad things, like everyone does, but there was no judgment. And there, that moment really did it, because I knew that there is no judgment. And the many NDEs after that I spoke to or that I read their NDE from say there is no judgment. So the life review is just to show you your place on earth in this world, your relations with others. That's why you can feel it also from the other side. Okay. So if you do something nice to someone else, you will feel the thrill the other side had. Or when you did something not so nice, then you will feel the pain on the other side, as if you are the other. That's really, people have to think about what that means. And I really hope that more people will understand that. And will change their lives. And talking about that now, like if you talk about the conflict in Israel with Gaza, with the Palestinians, both sides will feel what it is to be the other side. Imagine the Palestinians who killed off the Israelis on the 7th of October will feel what that is, as if they are the others. The Israeli soldier who massacred on a grand scale now will feel all on the other side the Palestinians have to go through. That's not how we should live.
No.
We should go into love. Same with Ukraine and Russia. Anywhere, any conflict, but also in our own life here, in your case, in the US, in my case, in the Netherlands, we have to realize that we will feel what we do to others as if we are those others.
And as you were doing this research, was it consistent stories and patterns that people were talking about as they went on to the other side? Like, was there anything that was like so far off? You're like, no, that can't be true. But it sounds, I mean, and I've done reading and research on near-death experiences. Dolores Cannon, I've watched a lot of her videos. And it sounds like everyone has a very similar story whenever they have these near-death experiences. And it's, how can people have the same story if it's not, if they don't even know each other, and they're all saying the same thing. Yeah. So is that what you ran into, where people are kind of having that same pattern when they're having the near-death experience?
Well, they sort of have the same experience. There are differences. And again, what I said before, not one NDE is the same as another. Some people go into universe. Some people stay in an environment with buildings. Some people are in a natural environment with plants and streams and butterflies and stuff. Some people see Jesus. Those will be typically people who are in the Christian faith. But there are also people that see Krishna or Muhammad, and they are people from the Hindu or the Muslim faith. So people see their own deities typically. I know of two people who have seen more deities of different religions. That's interesting in itself. But I think that we shouldn't concentrate on these differences. I think we should concentrate on what binds NDEs, or what is consistently told. And what is consistently told are these three things that I mentioned before. So there's unconditional love on the other side for everyone. Is no exception. Also for, you mentioned it, you can think of a number of bastards in history, in principle, also for them.
Yeah.
Unconditional love for everyone. There will be some kind of a life review, although not everyone who has had a near-death experience talks about a life review, but there are so many of these stories. And you, as I said, you will feel the other side. And then there's the third thing that I think is very important to talk about, is the unity that people feel. There are so many stories of people that say, it felt as if we are so closely connected with everything, not only with humans, but also with animals and nature, but with everything. So it doesn't exclude anything. And that is interesting. Some people go even further than that. They say, well, we are all part of God, or God is, as one said, I'm a speck of sand on the beach, and God is all the beach. So that to give you the impression that we are all part of this God. Some people say we are all coming from this source. There is a source that emits life forms, and we are one of those. And you're sitting in your chair there thinking you're independent, and your listeners have the same feeling. And we look out of our eyes and we see the world, and we think the world is something else. If someone else has pain, we don't feel it. That's not the case, because the source feels everyone's pain. It feels your pain, your joy, all your emotions are the source's emotions. And I say the source because I don't really like the word God, because it is religious connotated. It has all these ideas that it's a gray man with a beard. You're Catholic. Yeah, things like that.
So has this changed the way you think about religion? So if somebody's they don't have a religion, they're not religious at all, or don't believe in God, Jesus, Muhammad, anything, is there, what do you think happens to them? Like, what are they seeing if somebody has no religion or doesn't believe in it? And the other question I had is, has this changed the way you think about religion since you grew up religious?
Yeah, to answer your last questions, yes, it did. I was quite well in the Catholic Church, but it doesn't matter if you are atheist, or you don't believe anything, or you believe in any religion. There are stories of NDEs that have no religion, or are in any of the other religions. So it happens to everyone. And there is unconditional love also for people who are atheists, who don't have a religion. Interestingly, there is one guy who had a life review, who had a near-death experience, and asked bluntly, he saw Jesus, and he asked Jesus, what is the best religion? And then Jesus said, the best religion is the one who brings you closest to God. That was the answer. I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have a religion. You can be without a religion, and all roads go back to the source.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. And that's what NDEs also say. We all go home. There are so many NDEs that say that. We all go home. There's no exception. And there's no hell and no purgatory.
Your body is brilliant. Nature's Bounty has a bounty of solutions to help you thrive, supporting your systems from your head to your heels. Nature's Bounty High Absorption Magnesium Glycinate supports heart, bone, nerve, and muscle health, while just one hair growth capsule a day helps grow thicker, fuller hair. Delicious new Nature's Bounty Probiotic Gummies contain prebiotics and postbiotics, supporting gut health, regularity, and immune health. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature. Learn more at naturesbounty.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Those are real quotes in my book.
And do you think we come back?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't believe it myself, because I take the idea of oneness to extremes. And as I said just before, the source leads everyone's life. So you name it, and the source was leading that life. So Nefertiti, Napoleon, also the people you don't see, like the fisherman catching fish in the sea. There's the sources in that person too. And that's why I think we don't need to reincarnate. And that's one of the NDEs said that eloquently. He said, we don't reincarnate, God reincarnates. And I thought that was interesting, because it shows you that the source leads everyone's life.
After you've done this research and have learned so much about this, has it changed the way you feel about death? Does it make you not scared?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it did. And that's typical also for near-death experiences. They lose their fear of death. And what happens to people who are interested in near-death experiences and read much about them and research them, you don't have to research them. Just talk to people. Talk to a number of people who've had such an experience. 1 out of 20 or 25 people has had a near-death experience. So look around your own environment. Mm-hmm. If you do that like I did, you have this benign virus, as we call it. So you become sort of a proxy near-death experiencer, and you lose your fear of death, for instance. I lost my fear of death. I never really had it, but what was left of it, I lost it.
Yeah. Yes. I had a woman who hypnotized me and took me through past life regression.
Yes.
And she, I believe that she, like what I had come, I mean, there was, after she took me through this hypnotism and showed me these past lives, I remember them now as if they really happened. So it's not, so that's the only reason why I believe that maybe we come back. One of my past lives, both of the lives that I did visit with her through this 1.5-hour hypnotism, it's nothing I thought I would be in my past lives. One of them, I was a man that lived in Kansas, and I was a farmer and had a wife and had 2 children, and not at all like living what I was completely opposite of my life today. So a straight man with a wife and kids and all this. So I never thought that would be me. The other one, I was actually, I didn't see who I was, but I could see the environment where I was, and it wasn't this planet. It was another planet. So it was really interesting how, and she has a whole podcast series, and she's written books, and she's really fantastic. And she does, these group hypnotism things, but she did me one-on-one, and she made me really think about how when you die, it's just I'm not scared of it anymore at all. I mean, not that I was ever really scared of it. I guess I didn't think about it, but it did make me think about it more once I did this with her.
With reincarnation and anything like that, I don't know. And I always say to people, if you speak to someone who really says he or she knows how it works on the other side, the only thing you have to do is turn on your heels and run away as quickly as possible, because I don't believe that anyone really understands how it is on the other side.
Yeah.
Having said that, reincarnation, I don't really think that is the case, but I leave it open. I like to, maybe I will be surprised.
Yeah.
And something else, like the two people you mentioned, one the Kansas farmer and the other one, the, if I can say that, the extraterrestrial somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have lived, or yeah, they have lived. But it is not necessary that you have lived that life, because, again, if I take oneness to extremes, there is the source, and the source feeds everyone's life. And since you are part of the source, you are in principle able to tap into any life there is, either on Earth or in somewhere else. So I think these lives have really occurred. I'm not sure of the concept that we, like you, Zach, or me, Bob, will, when we die, the same substance will go into a next baby or so.
Yeah.
And there's other thing, like there is no time on the other side. So why don't we reincarnate in the future? Surely that happens too.
I actually love this conversation because I never thought of it that way. That since we're part of like this source, that maybe I was seeing somebody else's life. Like that makes a lot of sense actually to me. So
yeah, but it's still, if someone in a regression therapy finds that for you, then it has a specific meaning for you in your life now, and maybe that's what you need to look for.
Yeah.
That's what I think. So it has a meaning why it happened to you, or why you were coming across those lives. Either maybe it's because you have been those people, and then it has a meaning. Otherwise, it has a meaning because these people have something to do with your life now. And that's why they give this as a gift to you.
Yeah. Interesting. I love that. This is also fascinating. So, and I guess we won't know until we're dead.
I don't say that I know. I want to make that clear. I don't know. The only thing that I know is that the people that I speak to, near-death experiences, what their stories are, and that's what I bring forward. And one of the things that comes out of it is that we are part of one. If I do something nasty to you, I will be able to feel that. It will be part of me, because I can't just walk away and think that's it.
Yeah, I just like it that you're making me think of another, in a different way. That's why I appreciate the conversation, because what you're saying does make sense. And whether you're right or wrong, I mean, I'll think about this probably for quite a while after this conversation's over to try to analyze it in my own head. But I do just like it, the fact that you have another way of thinking about it. And you've kind of brought that to the audience and to me. Tell me about your you had something that you wanted to talk about about the Old Testament. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, one of the things, because I was raised Roman Catholic, in the Bible it says that gay people are an abomination, and it comes from the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and that's a really ridiculous story. Because let me run that by you and your listeners briefly. I have to look at my notes once in a while. The thing in the Bible, it says that the men of Sodom were wicked and sinful before God. So it means that there's something wrong with them. And then God tells to Abram is a very important person in the Bible, that he's going to investigate Sodom and Gomorrah. And if the sins are grave, God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And then Abraham asks of God, will you destroy both cities if there are let's say 50 righteous people in the city? Will you then destroy them even when there are righteous people in it? And then God says, of course not. And then he starts bargaining. He starts with 49 and he goes down to 10. And every time God says, no, if there's 10 righteous people there, then I won't destroy the cities. And then you have a change in view, in the setting in the Bible, because then it suddenly stops. And then you see that there are mysterious envoys going to enter Sodom. And they are investigators of God, of course. That's the idea. And then a relative of Abraham is living there in Sodom, and he waits for them at the gate, and he leads them to his house and gives him a lot of hospitality and food and whatever. And then then people of Sodom realized that Lot, that's the name of the guy, Lot, he received these envoys, and they come to his door, and there it says in the Bible explicitly, elderly people and young people, young children are there at the door, and they say they want to know them. They want to know these strangers. And the meaning that is given to that sentence is that they want to have sex with them. Like the men of Sodom and Gomorrah want to have sex with the envoys. Now, if you read that, then it's a very strange story. That's a ridiculous story, because why would children be gay already? I must say that when I was 8, I had the feeling, or maybe 9, I had the feeling that I wouldn't really go for women.
Yeah.
That's when that early that came for me. But children were gay. That's strange. And would all people of Sodom be gay? Because how would they reproduce then if everyone is gay? And then if only the men are gay, then of course the women are not gay and not an abomination for God. And there would be more than 10 people in Sodom that would not be, or that would be righteous. Then God wouldn't destroy it. So, but God destroyed both cities anyway. And the question then arises, why? Now, somewhere else in the Bible, and that's the interesting part, that's from a prophet called Ezekiel. And Ezekiel says, at that point in the Bible, he says, Sodom and Gomorrah were proud. They were sated with food, complacent with their prosperity, and they gave no help to the poor and the needy. Rather, they became haughty, or how do you say haughty? Yeah. So, and that is the reason why Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. It was not because there was gayness there. That was brought into the idea later. It is that people are wealthy and are not prepared to share that with others. That is the idea. And that has been discarded, I think, from thinking. It was more like, they must be gay and we need to punish gay people. So we take, what part of the Bible can we do? Oh, this one. That's a nice part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, if you really look at that, then it's totally different. And I'm not the only one that says that. There are more people that go to this particular place in the Bible and say that that's the reason. It's because Sodom was rich and didn't want to share. There's nothing wrong with being rich, but if you don't want to share with others, that is probably something that, moreover, if you look from a near-death experience point of view, if you are rich and you keep it only for yourself, you don't want to share it with others, and you don't care about others, you will not really like to look at your life review, because you will feel the pain on the other people's sides.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you have a lot of people listening to this, especially myself, something to think about. I mean, it's really interesting. It's kind of like a world that none of us really know about. So it's just, and I think there's a lot of curiosity about it. And if people did think about it the way that I think you're thinking about it, I think religions would be much more accepting of the gay community and
yeah. Religions are being made partly also by men. Mm-hmm. I mention men because it's mainly men that create religions, and it's man-made.
Yeah,
it's not God-made; it's man-made.
Yeah.
And if I talk about abomination, the third example in my book is very interesting too. It's about a woman who had a near-death experience. She had an allergic reaction, and fortunately that was in New York with the wife of the woman. She went outside and there was an ambulance waiting there, and so she had time to get people in, and they resuscitated her quickly enough. Nevertheless, she had a near-death experience, and in her near-death experience she just shot up out into outer space. She went through universe, and then at one point she was, it was in a very fast way, and it went slower, and then she saw her grandparents
Oh,
there,
wow.
and the grandparents said to her, they apologized for being difficult for her because they lived in the Bible Belt, and it's an abomination, they say, if you're gay.
Mm-hmm.
So they apologized for her, and they recognized that must have been a very difficult life that she had. And then the woman said, "Okay, that's nice that you say, but I'm on this wonderful voyage through universe. I want to continue." And it's a loving voyage. And then she meets God suddenly, and then she talks to him in a way like, let me say what she says. She doesn't understand why God is interested in her because she is gay. So she asked bluntly, "I am gay. Will you still love me?" And then God takes her in a divine embrace and took her across the universe in a happy flight. And he said to her, "You are my child. I love you. I love you. I love you." I just quote what she
Yeah.
wrote. She said, and then suddenly he said to her, and I can't do that in Southern accent, something like, "Go get him."
Okay.
And then the next moment she was back in her body again, because that's what also happens to near-death experiences. They get to hear, "This is not your time. You need to go back again because you have things to do. There's important work you have to do." And sometimes they are told what kind of work it is, but people forget because apparently it's not required or not good if you know what you are supposed to do on Earth. You just have to find out yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think I could talk to you all day about this because I think it's so fascinating. So I really, if you're interested in learning more about what Bob is doing, let me give you his website. It's www. It's Bob, and I'll spell his last name. It's Bob, COPPES.com. His book is on Amazon. It's called Impressions of a Near-Death Experiences. I'm bringing it as soon as we hang up because it sounds like an absolutely fascinating book, and I want to read about all these. I want to read about it. I think it's so fascinating, and you just really you make me think of death and what happens, and just everything differently. So and I love having these type of conversations because of that. Because I don't think the way that we all live every day, it can't be real. So there's got to be something more, and I think that you give hope for something more.
yeah. Yeah, maybe also, if I don't know how much time I still have, but it's, because those are not fairy tale stories. There is real research going on
Mm-hmm.
to see if there is something real about these stories. And what has been done, and the things that I think are important, are the veridical observations that are being made. And that's a difficult word to just indicate that there are observations made by people who have had a near-death experience during their experience that have been confirmed independently later on. And just to give you two examples, when people are in hospitals, undergoing an operation, they sometimes hear exactly what is going on in the operating dome. They see what is going on. They see where things go wrong, or they see other details, which later can be confirmed by the doctors or the nurses present. And that indicates that your consciousness can be outside of your body. It doesn't need to be in your body. You can see apparently from a different point of view. And another one, this is category one, I define that, but the category two is important too, because they are observations made when people are on the other side. Like they hear something, what is going to happen in the future. They see, for instance, they see who they're going to marry to, and they meet this person later. And one person, and that's an independently verified story, she was in the afterlife areas, to say it like that, and she met deceased relatives. And one of them presented himself as a baby boy in specific clothes and said to her, "You have to remember how I look like and tell your father and ask who I am." So that is what she did when
Yeah.
she was resuscitated later. And she goes to her father and she says, "Well, I saw this baby boy, this kind of clothes." And then the father said, "Well, I must say to you that you had a brother who was born before you, but survived or lived only for minutes or hours. I don't know how long, maybe a day or so, but
Wow.
passed away. And we never wanted to talk to you about him because it was painful for us and stuff like that. And now it was out in the open, and she didn't know about him. And yet this information was correct on the other side.
Wow. That's
And there are many of these stories. That's important to stress. There are hundreds of these stories, and they are also in a book. My book was published by the International Association for Near-Death Studies, and this other book is also published by the International Association. And that's maybe I can flash that.
yeah,
Also.
please do.
The self does not die, and it has all these many of these stories, hundreds of them. It's very interesting book to
Is that
go
on Amazon as well?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, I will put a link in the description of the podcast and the video on YouTube directly to the link. So if you're interested, please go out and buy it and visit Bob's website. Yeah, I think it also gives me hope that one day I'll get to see my father again, or be a part of that world again with him. So it's really.
I thoroughly believe that,
Yeah.
and that's my belief. That's my personal opinion, but that's based on speaking to so many NDEs.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on. You're so interesting, and I'm glad I got a chance to talk with you. Again, I'll put Bob's website and his books in the description, so please check it out. And I really want to thank you so much for being on the show today.
It was wonderful to be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not everyone understands house music. It's a spiritual thing, a body thing, a soul thing.